Hello. Okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me. And here is my spoiler-free review of Predator: Killer of Killers, the latest installment within the Predator franchise. For those who have been following me for a while now, we know I'm a massive fan of the Predator franchise. And we've got this animated anthology that's been directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who directed the amazing Prey, as well as a Joshua Wasang who co-directs you. First of all, I just want to apologise. This review is going to be a little hasty because I'm sort of trying to squeeze it in between work and being full up of the lurgy. And so I might come across as lacking in energy maybe. I am still sort of struggling to sort of shake this, whatever it is, off, this cold. But I've literally just finished watching Killer of Killers, and I really wanted to share with you all my thoughts on it. So the film follows three of the fiercest warriors in human history, each from a different era, who unknowingly becomes prey for the ultimate hunter, the Predator. The film tells three separate stories within the Viking Age, feudal Japan, and World War II. So, Dan Trachtenberg brought us the amazing Prey. I absolutely loved that movie. And Dan Trachtenberg gets it. He gets what us fans really want from this franchise. And he understands how to do it in a way that is very effective, very natural, and very organic. What Killer of Killers does is sort of not only gives us fans like myself, you know, what I've been desiring for so long now, for so many years from the Predator franchise, which is diving into these other eras, whether it be the Viking Age or, you know, feudal Japan and World War II. You know, this is something that I've always wanted from the Predator franchise. But what he does here is also hone in at what made the previous movies, specifically the original two, Predator 1 and Predator 2. He hones in on what makes those, or made them special, what made them work for me. And that is by creating and writing and establishing these characters that have a weight to them. Characters that are in a situation that has a weight to it, that has a groundedness to it. And that is why, for me personally, Predator 1 and Predator 2 works, is because you're following these characters on this journey. And yeah, it's not the most, you know, emotionally complex thing ever, but the characters are written in a way that feels natural, that feels organic, that has a weight to it. It's enough to sort of put us on this kind of thrill ride where we actually care about these characters, and then you've got the alien hunter thrown in the mix. And that's what I feel like Killer of Killers does absolutely beautiful here, and that is honing what made those original two movies work for me and sort of really kind of bring to life an aspect that I've been desiring from the Predator franchise. And we finally get it here, it's finally realised, and I absolutely loved it. Yes, it's in condensed form, like the film is only 1 hour and 26 minutes, I think, from the top of my head, and it is condensed, and it did kind of leave me wanting a little bit more from these characters within these time periods. I wanted to spend more time within these time periods, but it was still effective, and that is testament to the very focused and smart writing within the movie, I felt, because the writing is very effective at establishing these characters and these situations in a way that kind of just immerses me into these character stories to the point where I actually care about them. I care about what these characters are going through and their relationships with one another. And even though it's very condensed, the writing does, I felt, a wonderful job at bringing this to life. And I just love how they use these three different eras, you know, whether it be feudal Japan, the Viking Age, or World War II, and how they sort of weave these very kind of different traditions and cultures into the core of these characters' stories. And just so you know, with the Predator in the mix here, I just felt like it was beautifully done, where it adds this sort of weight to the story. It as a result becomes a very human story. It has a heart. And that is what makes these experiences special. It's what makes them work. It's what makes them effective. But I just love how sort of the traditions and these different cultures sort of came to life within each of these stories, and how they sort of, how the Predator was used within them. Whether it be the code of honor and the traditions within feudal Japan, or during the Viking age where you've got a mother avenging the loss of a loved one, just how that is all sort of weaved into these stories and sort of brings these stories to life. I thought it was done in a very clever and effective way. And each segment is just beautifully realised. And I just love how they kind of draw from these different cultures in a way that kind of creates, even though you've kind of got a very similar story, it also adds a very different perspective to it and a different flavour to it that kind of just keeps the story alive and fresh. And so even though you are getting something familiar, like, you know, like for fans like myself, you know, I've always wanted to see the Predator in stories like this. But you could, you know, it could easily become repetitive. But I think Dan Trachtenberg here understands how to not fall into that trap. And I just think Killer of Killers is a perfect example of how to do this, how to sort of continue these stories in a way that is very effective. I also adored the style of animation they chose here to bring this story to life. For me, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Clone Wars. You've also got Arcane there. Now, I've never watched Arcane, but I'm very aware of the style of animation within that show. And it's just beautifully brought to life here, and I just love how they sort of use, how they frame the action and how they frame certain moments. Like, it's very dynamic in how the camera is used and how it moves, injecting this kind of very sort of high energy into the narrative, but it's not too much. It's just right. You get to see the kills in all their glory, and it pulls away just at the right moment. And I just love how everything was sort of framed within the movie and how it all played out. Like, it was a fun thrill ride. This was 1 hour and 26 minutes, and even though I wanted to spend more time within these different eras with these characters, it was an exciting, fun thrill ride, and everything worked. I would have loved for this to have been 30 minutes longer, but I felt like with what Dan Trachtenberg was aiming for with this movie, you know, it's not only sort of introducing us to these characters where we can actually care about them, but also expand upon the mythology, the lore of the Predator in a way that felt natural, that felt organic, that felt right. I think this is the first time, maybe other than Predators, where I felt like sort of when they come to expand on the lore within the Predator franchise, I felt like it was done right. It felt authentic to the Predator franchise. It worked. Like, I was grinning year to year, especially as the movie concludes. I was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Dan Trachtenberg gets it. He fucking gets it. And as the credits roll, I was like, yes. This is what I've been wanting. The voice acting is great. I love how these characters are brought to life through the voice talent. But the standout for me was a Lindsay LaVanchy. I think that's how you pronounce the name. And she plays Ursa. She brings Ursa to life, this Viking mother. She was fucking amazing. I loved her character in this movie, and you could feel this kind of, like, the way she brings the characters to life, you could feel and hear the guttural anguish. That's the only way I could describe it. That kind of guttural anguish that the character is going through internally. She was fucking amazing in this, just from sort of how she's brought to life visually, as well as the voice acting from a Lindsay LaVanchy. I also adored how Dan Trachtenberg sort of takes different elements, you know, aesthetically, or designs from different movies here, and kind of blends them into this one experience. Wherever it be sort of the design or the Predator ship from Predator 2, I felt like there were elements, and even the colour palette of sort of the inside of the ship from Predator 2 here utilised, as well as the design of certain items and props from Predators even. You know, there seem to be sort of little things taken from each one of the movies and sort of all kind of put here, and it's done in a way that I felt like it was beautifully done. You know, and it even sort of, and I gotta be careful here because this could, well, it does kind of touch on a spoiler, so I'm going to give a spoiler warning by you. So if you don't want to be spoilt at all, stop now and come back in about 20 to 30 seconds. With that being said, it kind of takes the game reserve concept or idea from Predators and gives it a twist here. And I just love how that played a part in the story as well, because it was one of the aspects of Predators that I really liked. And even when it comes to the beautiful score by Benjamin Wallfish, where he honours sort of what the original score, and you get the original score here, but it plays at just the right moment. I thought it was beautifully implemented. Like, you get that classic score, and it's the original score is really kind of, I think, from what I can remember, only played once. It's in one moment, just as we sort of going into the third act, and I just felt like it was just right. And yet you kind of got this sort of different rendition of it throughout the entire film, sort of kind of conveying and kind of capturing sort of the time period we're in. But again, it just feels right, it feels natural, and it's a great score by Benjamin Wallfish. It's also a very gory experience. I mean, I love the kills within this movie. They're very creative, but it's not gory. And it's not over-violent just for the sake of being. You know, it works for the story. It is effective. It kind of plays into sort of the horror element of the Predator. And like I said, going back to how sort of the experience was shot and how everything was framed, it cuts away just at the right moments. And yeah, you know, it's very gory, it's violent, but it works. It's not just there for the sake of being there. It works for the story. It's an experience for me that felt very natural. It felt very organic, with a weight and care to its characters and their stories that remembers the human aspect first, then throwing the hunter, the predator, into the mix. That is why, for me personally, this movie works. It hones in on what made specifically Predator 1 and Predator 2 work for me, as well as expanding on the lore of the Predator, and it's done in a way that I felt like it's very clever, it's very effective, and I feel like if they continue on like this with Dan Trachtenberg and Fede Alvarez, with what he's doing with Alien, I think we're in for a wonderful time as fans of both the Predator and the Alien franchise, because this is talent that gets it. They're not just fans, but they're talent. They know how to sort of not only cater to the fans, but also evolve these stories and push these stories forward in a way that feels right, that feels that they honour what's come before, but feels authentic to what has come before, but also sort of pushing it forward. And I just felt like that's what Killer of Killers does really well. Once we get into that third act, like, it goes wild. It does get wild, but it works. And just like the very final shot, the very final moment before the credits rolled, I was beaming. I was smiling like a Cheshire cat, because it's like, fuck yeah. They get it, and I'm just ready for the next chapter, the next part of this story. And it's got me even more hyped for Predator Badlands. I'm really excited for Badlands, and I think, this does a really good job. I'm not sure how much of it's going to play into Badlands, but I think it does a really good job at sort of really getting you worked up, you know, psyched for what's to come next with Dan Trachtenberg within this universe. And he just gets it. You know, we're not getting the same old thing over and over. You know, yes, sort of the essence and core of those first two movies are there, but it's sort of brought to life in a way that feels fresh, it feels different because of that human element buried within the story that sort of allows these stories to have a reason to exist, that allow sort of myself, for example, to get immersed within these stories. And it just felt like I was watching a Predator film. I was watching a Predator story. I think maybe Predators, now I don't mind Predators, going off on a little bit of a tangent here now, but I don't mind Predators. And maybe if they'd lent more into what they do here within Killer of Killers, Predators would have been a much more effective movie. But anyway, that's enough rambling on from me for now. They are my thoughts on Predator, Killer of Killers, and I will be giving Predator, Killer of Killers they are my thoughts on Predator, Killer of Killers. But what do you guys think? Have you seen it yet? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you a fan of the franchise? Let me know below and let's get a discussion going. And if you have made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. Again, I want to apologise. I've been quite quiet over the last week. I've not been able to catch or sort of do the reviews that I intended to, especially when it comes to my retro, the third episode in my retro series now, which is it's getting later and later and later, but I do apologise, but that is coming. My review of 1960s The Lost World is coming, but everything is just delayed at the minute between work and coming down with the lurgy. It's been a little tough, but I'm going to catch up over the next week. We've got Ballerina coming out. I'm really looking forward to that. So the spin-off from John Wick. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has supported the channel. I've hit a milestone, the 500 milestone. I'm currently sat at 505, and I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone, not just the recent subscribers, but everyone that has supported the channel from the beginning. It means an awful lot, and you know, I love doing this. I absolutely enjoy talking about film and TV, and just like the fact that so many of you do want to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV, it means the world to me. And so yeah, enough rambling on from me. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.